All right. My name is Eli Khan, Principal Product Manager for AWS. Really excited to be here. A little nervous, pretty big crowd. So thanks for coming. We also have a few other speakers today. Jack Baumkamp, who's our Technical Project Manager. He'll be doing a demo. We have Dylan Shields, one of our lead devs. And then we have a couple special guests. A few of our partners are here and going to give some use case talks. We have Rich Vorwaller from Symantec and Nalima Rastagi from Demisto. Cool. So I'll jump right in here. I'm here to talk about AWS Security Hub. I'm going to talk a little bit about the service, what it does, the benefits, the rollout that we had yesterday. Jack's going to do a quick demo. We're going to talk about those partner use cases and then give you a heads up about how you can get started. Hopefully we'll have a few minutes for questions at the end. But to jump into the service, I first wanted to set some context. This is, folks may be familiar with this. This is the NIST cybersecurity framework. And this is really how AWS Security thinks about our security services and how we organize them. The 5-function framework begins with identify. This is about identifying your assets, identifying your risks. And identifying your assets and risks are, of course, the most important step to starting your security process. You need to understand what's in your organization before you secure your organization. We have tools like Config and Systems Manager to help with that inventory of resources. Next, you have Protect. Protect is all about putting that hard outer shell around your people, your resources, your applications, and your data. We have services like WAF and Shield, KMS, IAM, et cetera. And then next, we have Detect and Respond. In the detection piece, we have new services like GuardDuty. Probably a lot of folks know GuardDuty. It's become one of the fastest growing services in AWS. But before we get to Respond, there's actually 2 different ways you can get to Respond. This is an AWS addition to the NIST cybersecurity framework. In general, folks want to automate response as much as possible. Do that with Lambda functions, do that with step functions. But there's usually some security issues and compliance issues left over that need a human touch, some human review. So we provide investigation services like CloudTrail and CloudWatch to help with that. Lastly, recovery in AWS is a lot easier than doing it on-prem. While I was in government, if we had an advanced intruder in our networks, usually you're throwing away hardware, you're burning down networks. In AWS, you're simply reverting to snapshots and golden images and can recover much more quickly. All right. So with context, why did we build AWS Security Hub? There are really 4 problems that AWS Security Hub addresses. The first one is that many customers that are adopting AWS have various compliance requirements, either internal requirements or external regulatory requirements, and we want to make it easier for them to meet them. Oftentimes, as new companies are adopting cloud for the first time, really they want to make sure that they're setting up their environments correctly, and compliance checks can really help with that. Secondly, and the second problem actually isn't an AWS unique problem. This is probably applicable to any security organization, whether you're using AWS or not. But typically, you have dozens of different security tools. Those security tools need to be integrated. Oftentimes, you're spending hundreds, even thousands of hours parsing and normalizing data to get into a common format so that you can do search and analysis on it. Thirdly, we have customers that have only a few different security alerts that they have to deal with a day. We have customers that are dealing with tens of thousands of security alerts per day. Obviously, as you get to those higher numbers, it's much more than what a human can process. So you need tools to better prioritize those and really understand what are the most important security and compliance issues that you need to address. And then lastly, customers want that coveted single pane of glass for security and compliance issues. They want one place they can go to each day to better understand their security and compliance state. And this is why we built Security Hub. So Security Hub, it really begins with a simple and easy getting started process. Really with just a couple of clicks, you get started, and we start ingesting data, we start conducting compliance checks, and it's actually the same setup and start process as GuardDuty for folks that are familiar with that. Once you have turned on Security Hub with those few clicks, we start ingesting data. We've done fully automated integrations with our core security services like GuardDuty, Macie, and Inspector. And we've integrated with 29 additional partner products for this initial launch. Now, all those different security services, both ours and partners, have normalized their data into a common format, which we call the AWS finding format. This means that you can simply turn on the service, turn on any of the partner integrations, and all that data is ready for analysis from the get-go. No parsing or normalization needed. Huge pain point that we've solved with Security Hub. We've also developed these lightweight correlation rules called insights that allow you to correlate different types of alerts and security issues together to identify which of your resources are most problematic and which ones you need to focus on remediation. Simultaneously, we're doing automated compliance checks. So we're running continuous compliance checks in the background and also producing new findings that flag whether there are account-level issues that you need to remediate across any of the accounts that you've integrated with Security Hub. And then lastly, we're not just a visualization tool. We help you close that loop and allow you to take action on those most important findings. We do this via CloudWatch events. And we've actually already released some integrations with incident management tools, chat systems, and remediation platforms. So specifically, yesterday morning, Andy Jassy announced Security Hub coming out as public preview. What that means is that it's actually free for everyone. The only exception is there is a dependency on AWS config. So if you're not running config yet, you do need to turn that on. There's no charge for the config rules that we use for our compliance checks. But there is an additional charge for config items if you're not already using config. It's open to everyone, no whitelisting or gating needed. And we'll turn this into a generally available service once we iterate on some customer feedback from you all. There is full API, CLI, and SDK support. We're not going to be doing any backwards breaking changes, so you can go ahead and start using those today to build out any additional custom integrations. And we're launching at a global scale. So we launched in 15 regions around the world yesterday. Today, Security Hub is a multi-account single region service. So you do need to turn on, you need to have separate instances in each region. And in the future, we'll move this to a full multi-account, multi-region service. All right, so partner integrations. This is actually probably something I'm most proud about this launch. We really built a great community during this initial build-out process. We have 29 different partner integrations from 24 different companies. You can see that some of the companies actually have built multiple integrations, like Splunk, Qualys, Palo Alto, and Checkpoint. All of these integrations are fully integrated with the AWS finding format. So when you turn on these integrations from these partners, they're pushing their data already parsed and normalized into that AFF format. And one of the things that I thought was really, really cool about this whole process was these partners came together in a really amazing and inspirational manner. We were crashing hard as we were trying to hit the reInvent deadline. We actually didn't push the final code to partners until November 16th. And over the course of a week, over Thanksgiving, all 29 of these product integrations were finalized and completed and fully validated by AWS. Most of them were demoed in customer environments. All the others were demoed in our own account. And an amazing thing happened as we were going through that final push. We set up a Slack channel so partners could ask questions to us about the technical integrations. And partners actually started helping each other. There was really no economic incentive for partners to help each other. But I think it really reflected what we're trying to do with this product and establish a community. And there was a level of kindness and empathy and generosity that you probably don't see enough inside the security community. And I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to flag that. All right, so In reality, every partner on here deserves a slide. Probably need a whole separate conference to go through all 29 of these integrations. So I'm going to flag a few here with apologies to everyone else. But these three that I'm going to flag next, I think are particularly interesting and worth a notation. First, CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike has built a Python app that deploys into your environment. That Python app collects findings from all of the instances where the CrowdStrike agent is deployed. It takes those findings, translates them into the AWS finding format, and then they do this really cool process where they actually query the AWS API, further enrich those findings, and then transfer them into the AWS Security Hub with that additional enriched information. They have a CloudFormation template where you can get up and running with this integration in under 15 minutes. Next, Alert Logic. Alert Logic is an MSSP. The thing that I really love about the Alert Logic integration is that they do an amazing job of reducing the customer noise, or reducing the noise around security findings and security alerts. What they do is that they take findings from all your different security tools, and then they do additional processing and analysis on those findings, and then they only push to Security Hub the confirmed findings that are issues, the true positives and the incidents that they have confirmed indeed need your attention. So they do a great job of reducing the noise and then pushing to Security Hub only the truly important things. Their integration, as soon as you click subscribe in the AWS provider page within the Security Hub console, automatically you'll start pushing findings to Security Hub from Alert Logic. Last partner example, Armor, another MSSP. The thing that I love about the Armor integration is how easy and simple it is to get started. They have a toggle switch in their UI. Flip that toggle, and all the permissions, cross-account roles are put in place, and you're automatically integrated with AWS Security Hub. And then they actually have additional capability where you can select the specific data sets that you want pushed to Security Hub, which gives the user some finer-grained control of what exactly they want to see in their dashboards. All right. So next I'm going to jump into a quick run-through of some of the core features of AWS Security Hub. First, the multi-account setup. So for folks that are familiar with Guard Duty, this will look very, very similar. In fact, it is essentially the same code. And the process for multi-account setup is that you identify whether you want to designate an account as the master account, and then you're able to invite member accounts to that master. You simply upload a CSV file of account numbers and email addresses associated with that account, or you can manually type them in. And all of those member accounts will then get invitation to join you as a master. Once they hit accept, that master account will see all of the findings, the security and compliance findings for all those member accounts. So we're doing this multi-account roll-up, so as the master account, you can really see everything across all your accounts. Member accounts will only be able to see their findings, their own findings inside their own account. All right, next, compliance checks. So the first compliance module that we've rolled out is the Center for Internet Security, AWS Foundations Benchmark. This consists of 43 fully automated continuous compliance checks. And these are looking for account-level configuration issues, whether you have proper password policies in place, whether you've configured CloudTrail correctly, whether you're rotating your keys, whether you've using your root account properly. So these are continuously running in the background. And we do a nice job of rolling these up into dashboard widgets so that you can quickly see which of those 43 rules have a compliant versus non-compliant status. If any of the rules have a single failed or warning status across any of the accounts, that entire rule comes back as failed. Or, I'm sorry, that entire rule comes back as non-compliant. Next, insights. So insights are those lightweight correlation rules. We've prepackaged the system with over 25 insights. And I have a really, really simple example here. This insight, you can see the definition of it in the filter here. It's simply looking for current findings or active findings, and then it's doing an aggregation by AMI name. So what this allows you to do is quickly see which AMIs are most problematic, which ones have the most security and compliance findings associated with it. But this can really also just be a starting point. You can easily add additional filters. As an example, you might want to add additional filters to look at AMIs that are in your production environments and narrow it down to that. You can also do AND statements. So if you want to see AMIs that have vulnerabilities and suspicious behaviors, such as tactics, techniques, and procedures associated with cyber adversaries, you can build filters like that. And as you can see, you don't have to learn new query language for this. This can all be done visually. It can also be done programmatically through our API, but it's really designed for an analyst to get started real quick, and we're giving folks a number of starting points to do so. We roll up a number of these insights into a summary dashboard, so line charts, stack bar charts, et cetera, to help an analyst understand what are the things they need to focus on each day. All right. We're not just a visualization tool. So we are also helping you close the loop and take action on those high priority, high severity compliance and security issues. We do this via CloudWatch events. And this is highly configurable. We have some sample code for integrations with tools like PagerDuty and Slack, sending to email via SNS. But you can very easily create your own custom actions. But as an analyst, as I'm going through my process of alert triage and figuring out what are the security compliance findings that I need to pay attention to, I may identify one, and then I can flag that one and send it out for action. Send it out to a ticketing system, to a chat system, to a remediation platform, et cetera. When I take that action, that finding or collection of findings is emitted from the Security Hub tool as a CloudWatch event. It's decorated with a custom action ID. And then there would be a corresponding rule in CloudWatch events in the CloudWatch console that picks up that custom action ID and matches it to the rule and sends it to a designated target. That target is usually either a Lambda function or a step function. That Lambda function may chop up that data a little bit further and then push it to its final destination, which could be Slack, could be Jira, PagerDuty, could also be AWS Arrow. This is a really cool professional service offering if folks haven't heard about it. There are 25 different remediation packages and we'll actually showcase a few of those in the demo. All right, speaking of which, I'll turn it over to Jack.
All right, that works. Okay, so as Eli said, we have a summary page. Here's an example of the summary page. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the setup we've got here and a little bit about what I'm going to walk through. So the setup here, I've got 7 member accounts in my master account. So all of them are feeding findings in from a number of services. I have, for example, Macy, GuardDuty, and Inspector turned on in some of the member accounts. I've got the CIS rules that Eli referred to turned on in some of the accounts. And then also we've got some partner integrations where they've been sending us findings. Additionally, Eli didn't mention this, but you can generate your own findings. If you follow the format, you can import findings on your own, as long as you adhere to that format. And so you can decorate them the way that you might want to decorate them. So there's like Eli mentioned, we have some default insights, and so this dashboard up here highlights those on your summary page. And then we've got some status about some of the providers, again, internal services. Here's that summary widget that Eli was mentioning in terms of the CIS benchmark. You can see that the accounts that I've got here in our demo aren't doing so hot. And down here, we've got those dashboard items of when the findings are coming in over time and some resource-based breakdowns. Here's that example of maybe AMIs some over instances and over various accounts. So I can zoom in on the ones that have the most issues. If you're a member account, everything looks the same. Of course, it's just for your member account, though. You don't get the cross-account view. So let's just dig into this a little bit. I'll look at an instance example. So you can, as Eli noted, we've got a bunch of these filter chips and a group by statement, so I can see these are all the instances I have. Some of them are simulated that have issues. I can use either the items on the right, some of these graphs to dig it a little bit farther. For example, I just chose on the master account, so now I'm just seeing the issues associated with the master account instances, and then further drill into maybe one of the instances. So I can see if this particular instance has issues associated with inspector. And I can bring that up here and see some of the summary data of this particular inspector finding. And I can even get into the details of the finding format. This is that AWS finding format that Eli mentioned. And I can see, so, not in this example, but when we have our instances tagged, that will come through from inspector, for example, and some details about not only the image, but the VPC and the subnet. And so it's decorated with some of the information that inspector has natively, same with guard duty, et cetera. So in this case, I've got some of these, some instances running in my EC2 console. And so if I wanted to take an action on this particular finding, I've got this action button, and it comes pre-built with archive, so you can archive your findings if you don't need them anymore. But these other ones are these custom actions that Eli annotated. So I noted about. So if I choose one of these, it will emit that CloudWatch event notification, and I've got this one set up through Arrow to route to Lambda. So we'll look back in a moment, and hopefully it all works. In the meantime, I'm going to show you the standards guide. So this is the CIS standards. So I've got all those 43 rules that are automated on the page here, and I can dig into a couple of them. I can see some that I've got some of the accounts in my environment are failing, and others they're passing quite fine. And I can dig into it and say, one or two accounts, I better talk to the owners of those accounts because they're not adhering to the benchmark here, and I wouldn't want to take action on them or take action on that to make sure they follow the process. So we talked about sort of the insight view. Those are the pre-saved filters, but I can look at all the findings I've got in my environment, and I can add group by statements or filters to see what they're to dig through them all. So, for example, in this particular view, I can see which of our internal products and partner products are providing us findings in this account. So it's quite a few, and I can dig into those if I want to see more information, for example. And then in the settings page, Eli, again, noted the custom actions, and this is where I can add new actions. So I've got an example of setting to SNS, and here's that custom ARM that I would use to trigger a CloudWatch event rule, and then have a target downstream like Lambda or whatnot. Finally, let's see how well, it looks like that worked. So we emitted that CloudWatch event and sent it to Arrow. Arrow terminated my instance. If I had for example, a Bitcoin mining, I want to do it like immediately. That would be a way I might choose to do that. Okay, well that's just a quick overview of the product. Obviously, you can try it yourself for free and provide some feedback.
Wait, there's more. Okay. So next, wanted to jump into some more details on specific partner and customer use cases. Before the public preview started, we did a number of weeks of testing, months of testing, with a number of companies that agreed to participate in our private beta. This is a subset of them, a really good, diverse group of folks in terms of company size and industry types. And we met with these folks on a every other week basis to collect feedback and try to hone and sharpen some of the features that you're seeing today. I'd like to next turn it over to one of our special guests, Rich Forwaller from Symantec, who's going to talk about one of the use cases and the testing that they did specifically with LifeLock.
Thanks, Eli. So thank you. Appreciate the time being here. My name is Rich Forwaller. I'm a product manager over a product we call Cloud Workload Protection, or CWP. It's a product we've developed to kind of protect workloads in the cloud. I won't get too much into it, but I do want to kind of set a baseline of what we do, and because it's relevant in this use case. So we'd been working with the team at LifeLock for, I want to say, over a year. And we were looking at how do we better integrate our product with some of the Amazon security services. And I really felt bad for the team. I think some of the team members are in here, so I'm going to send you some chocolates for Christmas. But the scenario was kind of walking left to right here was they were using GuardDuty. And they were using GuardDuty as kind of like, I describe it as a canary. They were using GuardDuty to identify kind of suspicious behavior, but because of the industry that LifeLock was in, they had to be 100% sure that anything suspicious didn't mean a compromise. So the findings that they were getting a lot of were the port scans and the brute force login attempts. And so what the process was is GuardDuty would kick off a finding to them. They'd take that to their log aggregation service, and the volume of those types of findings were just so large that they literally had to dedicate time to go in and do some investigation on, okay, does this mean anything? What does this mean? So the scenario would be they'd get a finding, it'd go to their log aggregation, they would log in to CWP, my product, and they were using CWP mostly from a file integrity monitoring use case. So they would correlate those events and they would look at that. And if that was okay, like if they went in there and they looked at those events and they're like, yeah, this doesn't look like it compromised anything, they'd kind of sign off on that. But if there was inadequate information there or there was something suspicious, they would have to kind of pass this over to a remediation step. And all of this was manual. And this is why these guys hate me and I owe them boxes of chocolates. So they would pass this over to a manual process, and they would execute like scans or some of the further analysis that we would do. And then if that went away, again, they said, okay, we're good to go. We can go ahead and close this case. But it would be a process of back and forth until they kind of got to a level of where the findings had either stopped or that they had sufficient data that this didn't mean anything. So we were actually down a development path to fix this, and we were looking at, how do we better integrate with GuardDuty? When Eli's team called out to us and said, hey, we're looking at launching a service. It'll be a central point for all security events in AWS. It'll have this format that you can follow. And I literally felt like reaching through the Chime telephone and kissing him on his bearded, chiseled face. It was just like, that's awesome. I'm on. So this is the kind of process that we went from there. So what we did was we continued with GuardDuty. They continued to use that, and it's still kind of a canary service for them. The turning on AWS Security Hub, just like Eli mentioned, it's very, very easy. It's a click of the button, and those would automatically take their findings and put that to the Security Hub. GuardDuty is still emitting the CloudWatch events, so what we did was generate a very simple Lambda function that was looking for those two specific findings that they had, the port scanning and the brute force attacks. Once we do that, depending on the volume, that would kick off a process to CWP to do one of two things. It would either take events around that time frame associated to those instances and put those back to the Security Hub so they could correlate that, or it would actually start to execute automatically some of those steps. So if it got up to a volume that was, hey, something needs to happen, it would execute some scans, it would execute some of the quarantine of files, and again, post those results in there. So we don't have a screenshot to show you, but in the session that we did, we're actually able to see here was a port scan, and then here were the events from CWP, and now they have a much central automated way to do that. Now, this is just the beginning for us. We really want to expand this quite a bit more, and we're looking for some use cases from our customers. So if any of you guys have feedback on what you'd like us to do, we're really eager to hear that. But again, this was able to take kind of a process of where things were manual, and it was taking quite a time-consuming process where they could reduce that volume and get it to an automatic state. So that's it. Eli?
All right, next, I'd like to introduce Nalima Rastagi from Demisto, and she's going to talk about the integration that they did with the Pokemon company.
Thank you, Eli. Hi guys, my name is Nalima, and I run products for Demisto. A little bit about Demisto, what do we do? So we basically orchestrate and automate security playbooks by basically hooking all the products together. What do playbooks help you with? They help you respond to growing alerts, which also help you with having a consistent process. And in return, lets you get control of your risk, right? So imagine if you have a process, you can lay it out in a playbook and kind of run it again and again. We integrate with about 200 plus security products, most of the well-known SIEMs, endpoints, network, and of course the AWS products as well. So the picture that Eli showed in the NIST, like initially in his session, we integrate with almost all those AWS services, close to 15 plus. So we can literally, we call it keyless automation. We can actually imitate roles. Using that, we can pull in information from Security Hub and Guard Duty, and then respond to almost all the other AWS services using like EC2, et cetera, right? So here is an example of a playbook that we built for Pokemon. So imagine if you're getting the findings from Security Hub. You would basically get the findings. You can look at the JSON that Jack showed, which actually is the first step of that playbook. You can open the Jira ticket on the left, and as the findings are coming into the product, these playbooks actually run automatically, right? So there is a process, and we are going through that automatically without anyone having to come inside. So we are opening a Jira ticket on the left, and then in parallel, we are going and checking what the security settings for the EC2 instance, bringing it down using the EC2 service. On the right-hand side, the same findings can be used to parse out all the indicators for it. And if you're using enrichment services like VirusTotal, or if you're using Shodan or any other services, you can actually enrich all the indicators that came in through the findings on the right-hand side, and take similar actions on your on-prem assets as well, right? So on-prem security products that might be deployed, the same indicators can be used to actually enrich and take action on those. So the other thing that you can also do is, as Eli mentioned, if you're deploying security hubs in different instances or in your different geos, you can actually integrate all of them in one of the Demisto instances and run the same playbook on all of these. Pokemon plans to basically use our product, and it's a very interesting story, very similar to what Rich told. Pokemon was trying out Demisto, and at that time Eli reached out and we asked Pokemon would they be willing to kind of partner with us. We got an excellent response. In the last 3 weeks, Pokemon team worked with us like on a daily basis, probably 2 to 3 hours every day to actually get the findings in and then actually put them in Demisto and work with the playbooks. We are starting with the compliance findings, but they plan to use this for revoking access, putting down instances which are not compliant, and essentially responding to all the alerts automatically using the playbooks. Thank you.
Okay. One other integration that I'd like to mention, this is another interesting one. So in addition to all those partner and third-party vendor product integrations that we've done, you can also integrate with open source solutions or your own solutions. We have the ability, for every new deployment, we also create what we call a private product ARN, which you can use for your own custom integrations. And we worked with the Capital One team, who is the sponsor of the open source cloud custodian tool, which is an open source cloud compliance checking tool. And they built out a full integration using that private product ARN. And so similar to all the other commercial products, you can take this open source product and run the findings through Security Hub. We actually just published a blog on this today, so please do check that out. That walks through in detail how to set up the cloud custodian integration. Special thanks to the Capital One folks who helped us with that, and our AWS SA, David Philistrott, who built out that integration. All right. So in terms of next steps, I want to leave you all with some key takeaways here before, we'll take questions at the end here too. So if folks have questions, we'll take them at that mic there. But the goal of AWS Security Hub, hopefully as you've seen here today, is really to give you that understanding of your security and compliance posture or state inside AWS. And we do that by those automated compliance checks that we're doing, the first one being CIS. We'll roll out a number of additional compliance modules over time, so stay tuned for that. And then we're also doing it by collecting all of your security findings from your AWS and partner security tools, aggregating them into that common AWS finding format, and then correlating them and prioritizing them via insights. So, what next? Please go and try out the preview. Literally a couple of clicks and you'll get going. If there are partners in the audience that want to become an AWS Security partner, reach out to us and we'll get you integrated. And then we have our website with additional information. It lists all those partners that are on that slide there earlier, and also our documentation. With that, thank you very much, and yeah, would love to take some questions.
Try it. Maybe it's working.
Oh, there we go. So as far as configuring the master member, configuration multi-account, with guard duty, you can via CLI. There's a flag to just do a silent invite.
Yep.
So from the security team, I have cross-account access set up, and I basically just deployed it into all of these, our 40+ accounts, without having to spam, the account owners. Is there a similar option for this?
Yes. Yes, it's just like that option in guard duty, probably identical commands, just with the Security Hub CLI.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
So 2 questions. Number one, what are the next modules that you'll be focusing on? I know you didn't really say.
Yeah.
And maybe that was for a reason. But, and number 2, how do you guys handle exceptions within the compliance modules? Can you do it from like a top-down, like an AWS orgs, or is it going to be more account-specific?
So on the first piece, we really want to hear from you all as to which ones are most important. The ones that we've been hearing from our beta customers that are most important, which are currently in the lead, are a sort of more general purpose AWS best practices module that we author. Folks want to hear from us what we think are the best practices, so that's been high on the list. We've also heard from customers and beta participants that they want the ability to configure and write their own compliance rules. So that's high on the list. And then in terms of additional regulatory standards, the top ones that we've heard are PCI, HIPAA, and NIST 800-53. So those are the ones that are most prominent. But if there are other ones, we want to hear from you.
SOC 2.
SOC 2, cool. Okay. And the second question, the exceptions. So right now you can just archive findings. So if there are certain findings that you don't want to see, you archive them. What we'll be adding in the future is the ability to dismiss findings, which means that you never see those findings again for that particular account or that particular resource. But that's a little bit of a roadmap item. Yep.
Right. So I want to add about the features on the exceptions. A lot of those findings, exceptions, a lot of times not just on the resource itself, but like their specific business rule. So that we would probably need that, I think.
Yeah.
My questions is more about, other than the AWS config, is there any other kind of service requirement that we have to use? For example, like inspectors and guard duties and?
No, I mean, with Inspector and Guard Duty and Macy, the integrations with those are automatic. You actually, if you have those running in that account, you literally don't need to do anything. We'll just pull those findings in. You can stop sending findings if for some reason you want to from any of those services. But yeah, no other dependencies. And the config dependency is a partial dependency. We have dependency for a number of our compliance checks on config, but no dependency on the alert aggregation and insight creation.
Actually, I also want to ask, is the config brew part of going to be where we put the new standard in?
So we've authored a number of new managed config rules, 13 of them to power a number of our compliance checks. We don't charge for those, so you don't get charged for those config rules that we use under the covers to power our compliance checks, but they are full managed config rules under the covers.
Hi there. Question about code that actually is running on those instances and applications. So we have lambdas, code commit, code deploy. So any plans to get into this direction, like get vulnerabilities out of actual code base that is running on?
Yeah, so this is, we haven't integrated, and you might have noticed that in the partner matrix slide, we haven't yet integrated with any of the application security companies that are doing static or dynamic analysis. But that's really one of the next waves of companies that I want to integrate with. And we'll probably extend the AWS finding format to have a specific AppSec module within it. So this is something that I'm very interested in, but it's not really a major focus of the current preview.
And any timeline on that?
Honestly, it'll be dependent on the feedback we hear, how important it is to you all. So yeah, please let your TAM, your account manager know that that is something you want to see. I would say, though, that the AWS finding format in general is quite flexible. So there's nothing preventing a vendor or yourself from pushing findings from AppSec type tools into it. It's just that we haven't sort of promoted it as a first level field inside the AFF.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, so I understand that the tool is multi-account, but it is per region.
Correct.
Whereas when I think of a hub, I think of sort of one ring to rule them all, right? So, and admittedly, when you remediate, the automation can be consolidated into probably one place. But are there any plans to make it cross or multi-region?
100%. So, well, two things. One, we actually are doing some cross-region stuff today, but through our partners. So partners are oftentimes pushing findings to us that are cross-region collections of findings from their customer. So we sort of have an indirect cross-regional capability from partners, but we don't natively support cross-region yet with Macy Guard Duty Inspector findings. Without getting into the details there's just some additional things that we need to do on the underlying DynamoDB database that we use, but that is very high on the next steps list for product features.
Thanks.
Yeah.
When are you going to roll out for GovCloud?
So GovCloud is going to likely be the next region that we do. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks of additional lead time to get into GovCloud. So, we're thinking Q1 will be GovCloud support.
So we forward guard duty to a SIM. Can we do the same thing with Security Hub so that we don't have to parse because we were going to parse the Macy format and it's way different than guard duty. So it would be super awesome if we could just parse this one format in our SIM and be just done.
Yeah, so we've done the parsing for you. We've mapped Macy Guard Duty Inspector plus all these different partner findings into a common format. So you don't have to worry about that. We've done integrations with 3 SIMs so far, IBM QRadar, Splunk Enterprise, and Sumo Logic. And those integrations are designed to be bidirectional. So those SIMs can get findings in that parsed, normalized AFF format, AWS finding format. And they should be able to push findings back into us. So if they have content that's AWS related and you want those findings from the SIM in Security Hub, that can happen also.
Does it write to CloudWatch events? So then we could actually just forward the alerts, and let's say, for example, we wanted to use Aurora or I mean, Athena or something like that?
So we have a get findings. It doesn't, if you want to just dump all your findings out, you would use our get findings API.
So we would just have a Lambda and poll or something?
Correct.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate it.